Hello everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're diving into a heartfelt, high-tension story. James is far from home. A ruthless father is pulling strings, and Diep clings to love, a child's song, and one cryptic note. Moon later. The big question, is James really safe to go? Or did going just move the danger off camera? And can Diep outsmart the plan before it's too late? If you enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. Part 1. The first thing you hear is Nai's voice, clear, bright, unself-conscious, pouring through the little house like morning light. She sings a song she learned at school about a mother's hair smelling like sunshine, about gentle eyes and promises to sleep well, study well, make mom proud. It's a child's melody, but it lands like a bell in Diep's chest, the sound stretching across the distance to wherever James is. He's far away, too far for comfort, and that gap fills the room even when the room is full of Nai's laughter. Diep stands over the oil, coaxing sweet potato cakes to that perfect blush of gold. The scent is soft and caramel, a small harvest of comfort on a day that keeps asking for proof that everything will be okay. Nai swings a little on the chair, chin on the table, eyes shining. Auntie Diep, was the fried rice earlier yummy? She asks, as if the answer might change history. Diep grins. You tell me. Nai grins back. Yes, super yummy. Then one day I'll fry rice just for you again, Diep promises, and the promise lifts the air a notch. When is handsome Uncle James coming back? Nai ventures, small voice going smaller on the question. Diep flips a cake, lets the oil sing a beat, and keeps her tone light. He called. He said 1 or 2 days. Do you miss Uncle James? Nai pushes because children are braver than most grown-ups about the truth. I think he's the most handsome in the whole world. If you flatter him like that, Diep laughs, he'll have to bring you a present when he returns. Nai nods solemnly, already receiving the imaginary gift. I'll go to school well, she declares, as if that's the trade. The line is so pure it stings. Diep slides the first batch to paper towels and lets gratitude steady her. For Nai's uncomplicated joy, for the simple math of flour and sugar, for the quiet ritual of feeding the people you love. The kitchen carries that good silence you only find after a song. Nai hops down and throws her arms around Diep's waist, face pressed to the soft fabric that smells like vanilla and warm oil. It's a hug with no agenda, the kind Diep will remember years from now, when everything else gets blurry. She kisses the top of Nai's head and holds on a beat too long, the space in her arms admitting what her mouth hasn't said today. I miss him. I miss him so much it changes the weather inside my ribs. Second prettiest, Nai announces, finger in the air like a judge. Who? You, she chirps. So why second? Because Uncle James is number 1, she beams, then giggles like she knows the playful treason she's just committed. Diep smooths Nai's hair. I'll allow it, she whispers, and both of them laugh again. Sing it one more time, Diep suggests, and Nai obliges, the little song wrapping the room in a ribbon of vows. I love you very much. I want to hug and kiss loudly. I know you love me. When I'm sad, you're there. The words are a lullaby and a ledger, listing everything they already are to each other and everything they intend to keep being. Who taught you? Diep asks softly. Teacher, Nai says, and then with a conspiratorial smile. I like it most when you sing, though. Then I'll practice, Diep replies, meaning it. What are you drawing? Diep asks, spotting the open book and a rainbow of crayons scattered like candy. "Ms. Diep and Uncle James with me," Nye says, tongue peeking out at the corner of her mouth as she colors a roof in thick, confident strokes. "I'm coloring our whole house. Look, this is Ms. Diep. This is Uncle James. This is me." Diep leans, and for a moment the world rearranges itself into a child's beautiful geometry. 3 smiling faces, a square house with a door that always opens, a sun that never sets too quickly. "Gosh," she murmurs. "It's us." "I draw beautifully, right?" "So beautifully," Diep says, and Nye glows. "Return the book to Ms. Diep so Miss Diep can work," Nye announces, parroting grown-up talk, then adds, "When Uncle James comes back, we show him." "Deal," Diep says, tucking the book on the shelf like a treasure. She plates a cake. "Now taste. Tell me if it's good." "What shape is this?" "Circle." "That's right. Invite you, Nye." The bite disappears. The verdict is immediate. "Yum! This kind of potato is really soft." Then, the wish that pulls the room tight. "I wish Uncle James were here to eat cake with me." The way Nye says it, matter of fact, not dramatic, hits harder than tears. Don, the neighbor's shy boy, lingers in the doorway. "Eat," Diep invites, but he shakes his head, cheeks pink. "Take it," she says, and he does, because somehow food is easier to accept when it's wrapped for later. He thanks her and vanishes, a little ghost of shyness reminding Diep how many people in this neighborhood carry more silence than noise. By afternoon, the day changes key. The workers will come to install the iron door frame, Diep is told. "If you have time, arrange it." She does what she always does, gathers herself, adjusts timelines in her head, and goes down to meet them. The site is a knot of noise, metal clanging, someone shouting measurements over the whine of a saw, dust floating like chalky snow. Diep checks the deposit, greets the homeowner, volunteers to fetch water for the crew. She is good at this, the steady choreography of small competence. Her phone buzzes. "Sorry I can't support you this time, family matters," a voice says. "Take care." "You too," she answers, half listening, eyes tracking whether the frame sits square. Love and work live side by side in her life without competing. That has been her quiet victory. To be both tender and useful, both feeling and effective. "Hello, miss," a man says from the edge of the site. The tone is too neutral, the smile too careful. "Can we talk?" "Do I know you?" Diep asks, wiping her hands. "James asked me to come see you," the man claims, and the words are a calculated key. They almost fit the lock. Her eyebrows lift. "You and James, are you on good terms these days?" "We're fine," he says too quickly. "What exactly is your relationship to James?" she asks, because being polite doesn't mean abandoning sense. He searches her face like he's looking for the version that's easier to trick. "Friends," he settles on. "Not seen each other for a long time." He glances over his shoulder, then drops the script. "I'm here to advise you to give up, James." Those words don't just land, they punch. "Excuse me?" Diep's voice doesn't rise, but the ground shifts under it. "You shouldn't marry him," the man says. "It would be best to give up." "Why?" The metal sings behind them. The frame looks like a question mark in midair. "Because his father has spent a lot of money to hire men who don't mind doing bad things," he says flatly. "You're smart. You know what I mean. I came here to say this, and only this." The man's eyes are calm in the way a storm eye is calm. The site's din seems to lower itself, as if the world is trying to give room for the words to echo. Diep studies him, suspicion and adrenaline blooming together. James and I have survived things you know nothing about, she says. Even if his father threatens me, I won't abandon our love. We choose each other. She draws breath. And James's father is an educated person. He won't break the law. You'd be surprised what money buys, the man replies, voice like slate. 2 or 3 years in prison for a large payoff. That's a bargain to some people. I'm telling you the truth. You and James are too different. Since you started, it's been a mistake. There won't be a good outcome. Thank you for the advice, Diep says, the thank you carrying the weight of a door closing. But I believe our love can outlast this. If you truly love someone, you don't measure them with fear. The man almost smiles, but it's not a kind expression. Love? Love is the funniest story people tell themselves. Wake up. Love won't help you survive. Only money will. He shifts his stance, like he's about to deliver the line that will finish her. Be honest. Have you ever truly loved a girl? He asks himself aloud, posing and answering at once. Whoever loves more suffers more. Love is just an excuse for people to take what they need. You have A, I have B, we exchange. That's the nature of it. Diep feels the cold of that logic and refuses it like a body refusing poison. You don't know what I've survived, she says, voice steady. One day, someone will make your heart leap, and you'll ignore everything to go to her. That's how it was with me and James. His father can forbid us, threaten us, try to buy outcomes, but we will go through everything to be together. That is love. A metal bar drops, the clang slicing the moment. Dust lifts, sunlight pencils through, and for a second it looks like even the air is picking a side. The man's face stays unreadable. Consider this your only warning, he says, stepping back. Give up, James. Diep doesn't move. She lets him walk away first, lets the iron and the shouting and the ordinary chaos stitch the world back together around the hole he just tore in it. Only when he's small at the edge of the lot does she reach for her phone, thumb hovering over James's name, heart thudding a drumline of longing and fear. The call screen glows. The signal bar holds. She swallows, presses, listens. Pick up, she whispers. Please. Part 2. The ringtone crawls. 1 beat, 2, 3. Then the voice that isn't James. An automated wall. The number you have dialed. Diep hangs up before it finishes, scolding her hope. She tries again, because sometimes hope needs to be told twice. Same wall. Same silence after. She slides the phone into her pocket like it weighs more than metal and glass. Back home, the afternoon feels overexposed. Everything bright. Everything a little too sharp. Nye is on the floor with crayons again, humming the school song in half-remembered pieces, turning the chorus into her own invention. Auntie, does Uncle James like orange? She asks without looking up. He likes whatever you draw, Diep says. It's true. He kept Nie's first stick-figure family on his phone like it was museum art. He used to point at the little yellow circle and say, "That's our stubborn son. It refuses to set on us." Diep sets a cup of water, then another, then a plate of cooled cakes within Nie's reach. She wipes the counter for the second time, then the table, then the stove, touching what she can control while her mind fights the things she cannot. The man's words replay, but they don't land the same way in this room. The scent of fried sweetness, the tiny scuff on the chair where Nie always hooks her foot, the bent corner of the calendar. These are proofs. Love isn't a slogan sold by a stranger in clean shoes. It's this, the ritual of care. It is also this, the ache of waiting. Her phone vibrates, not James. a number she saved as Site Foreman. She steels herself for an invoice or a complaint. "All good," he says. "Frame is square. Tomorrow we hang the doors." "Thank you," she replies, and means it more than he expects. Every good today is a small stone in a landslide. Evening gathers with its predictable gentleness. Nye helps wash the rice, small fingers chasing grains around the bowl like minnows. "We still watching the moon?" she asks. "We are." "Then I'll sleep fast after," she bargains, like sleep is a favor she can do for the night. Diep smiles. "Deal." They eat simply. Nye tells a story that has no plot and perfect details. How the neighbor's cat yawned like a lion. How a bird tried to steal a crumb. How Don took the cake and looked brave doing it. "He's shy," Nye concludes, "but not with cakes." "Cakes are courage," Diep agrees. When the plates are rinsed and tilted to dry, they slip out to the small yard. The sky is a deep bowl, the moon a clean coin. Nye presses close, satisfied. "That note at the station," she says, unbidden. "The one that said moon later. It could be a promise." Diep looks down. "Exactly." They keep looking up together until the coin climbs a finger's width. Then two. Later is moving, even if slowly. When Nye falls asleep, spooned around a stuffed rabbit someone won for her at a Tet game, the house feels too large for one heart. Diep stands in the doorway and watches the soft rise and fall of a small back. A thought arrives. If fear is loud, I will be louder. She returns to the table, pulls out the notebook, and begins her second list of the day. Not names now, but choices. Choice 1. Keep trying James and risk alerting anyone watching her call history. Choice 2. Pass a message the way he passed hers. Paper and place. Choice 3. Go to someone who can make the father listen. The third option tastes like old stone in her mouth. Men like that learn early to listen only to themselves. She picks option 2. A note is quieter than a ring. She writes quickly. The way you write when you're afraid your courage will run out before the ink. 2 sentences. A place only they would choose. The small shrine near the school where they once borrowed shade on a summer afternoon. A time. Early, before scooters crowd the lane. She ends with a line she hasn't said out loud yet. I am not leaving you. She folds the paper into a tiny square and seals it with tape. The square looks like a seed. Then she does something she hasn't done since she was a teenager. She kneels and prays. Not a speech, not a bargain. Just the truth spoken quietly into her own chest. Let him be safe. Let me be brave. Let love not be the punchline of someone else's joke. Sleep comes late and light. Her mind keeps jumping over fences it built itself. Every sound outside. Motorbike, neighbor's door, drunk laugh 2 streets over becomes a possible step toward them or away. When Dawn finally rinses the house clean, she's already up. She brews tea, packs a plain bag, tucks the note inside her sleeve where it can't be brushed loose by a careless bump. She wakes Nye gently. Today you go to Aunt Hawa's, she whispers. Help her water the plants. I'll pick you up by lunchtime. Mission? Nye asks, delighted by secrets she doesn't need explained. Mission. Diep nods, and the word gives her a little armor. At the shrine, the air holds that early morning peace that makes every movement feel significant. She cleans a tiny corner with a handkerchief, as if the stone notices. She tucks the note behind a loose tile where a kid wouldn't look, but a careful man would. See you, she says softly to the empty air, as if the note is already in his hand. On her way out, she buys 2 sticks of incense and leaves one for later just because. The bus station is already warming to noise. Diep moves like she belongs to the crowd. Shoulders square, eyes soft, steps unhurried. The kiosk woman from yesterday spots her and shrugs a half smile. "No more boys like that today," she says. But I noticed one thing. When he left, he looked like he had decided not to be the story someone else was writing. Diep pockets the line like a charm. Decided not to be the story. "Thank you," she says. "If you see him, tell him the moon kept its promise." The woman laughs at the oddity, then nods like she understands anyway. At the workshop, the foreman's men hang the doors, the hinges crooning small metal songs. Diep checks the swing and nods, satisfied. The brother appears at the margin of the lot, not crossing an invisible line he respects now. "I meant what I said," he starts. "I know," she answers. "So do I." He glances around. "You were followed yesterday. Today too. Less obvious." She doesn't flinch. "Then they'll see exactly what I want them to see. A woman doing her work." "And if they try more?" he asks. "Then they'll meet everyone who thinks I'm their daughter, sister, neighbor," Diep says. "I'm not a single door you can kick in. I'm a street." The brother almost smiles. "He chose well," he says, and for the first time his words don't taste like apology. Midday, the phone pings. One bar, one message. Not a number she knows, but a rhythm she recognizes. 5 words. "Moon received. Wait for dusk." Her breath catches. She tucks herself into a quiet corner of the yard and reads the words again. Slower, the way you savor something sweet after a fast. The message is nothing and everything. It isn't proof of safety, but it's proof of motion. Dusk. She can do dusk. Time becomes a series of small tasks she breaks like bread. Pay the crew, recheck the frame, call the homeowner, buy vegetables, collect Nye. "Mission complete?" Nye asks, swinging her feet from the scooter's back. "Phase 1, Diep says. Phase 2 is naps." "Boo!" Nye protests, then yawns on cue and laughs at herself. Dusk arrives early in places where the trees lean in. Diep walks to the shrine without hurry, like a person visiting a thought. The tile she loosened is exactly where she left it. She doesn't touch it. She just sits on the low wall, hands folded, face calm, the kind of woman anyone would mistake for someone waiting on no one. The air cools in layers. A scooter whispers past. A boy kicks a ball and misses and doesn't care. A long minute stretches, then snaps. He steps from shadow to edge, thinner than before. Eyes carrying a map she can almost read. No grand gestures, no movie spin, just James, close enough to count the tired in his lashes. "You got my note," he says. "I got yours," she answers. They don't touch yet, they look. That's the touch that counts first. "Your father," she starts. "I know," he interrupts gently. He thinks distance is a leash. He tries for a joke and almost makes it. "He forgot I learned to chew through rope as a kid." "Are you safe?" she asks, the question that has been walking next to her all day. "Safer than I'd be if I did nothing," he says. "Not safe enough to stand here long." He lifts his chin at the tile. "Smart place." "We're smarter together," she says. And it isn't boasting. It's arithmetic. He takes one step closer. "I can't promise a clean path," he says. "Only that I won't let anyone write the ending for us." "Good," she replies. "Because I already started ours. It begins with a street that knows my name and a child who sings like the morning." He closes his eyes at that, just for a second, and she sees the man she loves drop his guard to hold the picture. They plan in brief lines. Where to meet next, who to trust, which doors to avoid, how to fold community around them like a shield. Before he leaves, he takes her hand for the first time in days. It's not firework electric, it's home electric, the steady current that lights a room. "I am not leaving you," she whispers aloud, giving the night the sentence it must carry. "Me either," he answers. He disappears into the layered dark. She stays until the scooters are few, until the shrine gathers its quiet back, until the tile is just a tile. Then she turns toward home, toward a sleeping child, toward a future that will not be handed to her but can still be built. On the way, the moon follows, slow and stubborn, their sun that refuses to set. With James far away, Diep holds the house together through warmth and routine, frying sweet potato cakes, guiding Ni's songs, and celebrating a child's drawing of their complete home. The tenderness cracks when a stranger appears at a construction site, urging her to abandon James. He warns the father has paid dangerous men. Diep refuses, defending love against his cold math of money. Calls to James fail, so she writes a secret note, "I am not leaving you," and hides it at a shrine. She gathers clues at the bus station, leans on neighbors, and outmaneuvers watchers with ordinary work. A coded text arrives. "Moon received. Wait for dusk." At dusk, James emerges from the shadows. They share a reunion, sketch a plan, and vow not to let anyone write their ending. Love becomes action, and Moon keeps their appointment.